that Tradwife to single mom in your 40s pipeline, yes, that's being exposed. All down my For You page, we got these women that are 40, maybe 50 years old, talking about how they were the perfect Tradwife. They baked bread, they cleaned the house, they had unmedicated births, they stayed home and reared the kids, and their man still left them for somebody that was 15 years younger than them. Literally. And that's the thing. I think that's why people don't like Nara Smith. One, the Mormon thing, and then also because she's romanticizing the idea of being a trad wife, when in actuality, no amount of self-sacrifice and no amount of people-pleasing and man-pleasing is going to prevent somebody that seeks to mistreat you from mistreating you. That's how that happens. I mean, that's just what it is. You can never be perfect enough for someone that seeks to hurt you. Okay? Y'all, it's really sad watching these women like basically say, I'm a single mom of 4 kids now. He lives with another woman, blah, 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 blah. And I saw somebody in the comments that said something so perfect. You never see a 40-year-old trad wife advocating to become a trad wife. A lot of the times it's typically somebody that is young and very new in the lifestyle. Y'all, if you're in your 20s, even if you're in your 30s, listen to these women, okay? They are what your future could look like.
The concept of being a trad wife has sparked a lot of controversies these days because persons or creators on the internet, seem to be glorifying or romanticizing that woman existence is merely just to support their husband, performing thankless tasks, challenging labors to basically raising the kids, running the entire household, and not taking into consideration the event that, their husband divorces them, or even if their husband passes away prematurely, they may face a financial hardship, and it's hard to rebuild, their life after not having a career over the years. And the flip side to that as well is, what if the woman wants to leave instead with no experience in terms of employment, no income, no independence, and basically she's going to struggle to support herself, and worse if she has children, because she has always been financially dependent on her husband. So in today's stories, we're going to talk more about the trad wife, aka the traditional wives, and the basically gender roles in the household, and women are no longer glorifying that, because women in their 40s are oftentimes divorced, homeless, and basically left being single mothers after spending most of their 20s and 30s being a traditional wife. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you enjoy content like these, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. It helps my videos to get pushed out, an easy and free way to support my content as well. As usual, let's keep this conversation going in the comment section. Let's get into today's video.
If you're wondering why you don't see a lot of trad wife content from women who are sort of 35 and above, it's because they end up like me. Hi, for those of you who don't know, I was a stay-at-home housewife from when I was 17 to nearly 27. What my life looked like for that decade was, essentially, I waited for him to come home for about 10 years. At the time I was 21, I had 2 kids under 3, and so that took up an enormous amount of my time. They were only allowed to go to a Steiner Waldorf school under his rules, which basically means no tech, no screen time. They learn how to do things with like wool and clay, and it's actually really culty. And I personally wouldn't have picked that, but what he said went. I was incredibly submissive, and I loved him absolutely unconditionally, regardless of what he did to me. And yes, this was also a very abusive relationship, but I don't think that's necessarily typical to the degree that it happened to me, to everyone in these kinds of relationships. I was very fortunate that I worked part-time some of that time, although it was really hard for me to hold down work because my work was never prioritized, and I'd only work like 7 hours a week anyway. So not enough to have financial independence, but enough to have a little bit of like pocket money, although he would often dip into that as well. The industry I worked in and like got any kind of education in, because I wasn't allowed to go to uni, was the beauty industry, because that was considered safe because I wouldn't have male co-workers and therefore I wouldn't have male friends, and I wasn't allowed to talk to male friends anyway, even the ones I'd been friends with for like over a decade at that point. I wasn't allowed to get tattoos. He had absolute say over what I looked like. He would decide how I dressed, how I wore my hair, and if I changed things without like asking him first, he would put me down either very directly telling me I looked awful, or indirectly by saying, oh, I liked how I looked before, and he'd hassle me with it until I changed it to a way that he deemed acceptable. A really fun thing about that is I figured out years later that he actually just encouraged me to look like the women he was cheating on me with, so that's fun. I learned how to cook like a chef because his expectation was, from the time I was, again, 17 years old, was that I made everything from scratch with fresh ingredients, so I went to the supermarket every single day. But because I wasn't allowed to drive, I had to walk to the supermarket or take like buses and trains, and A lot of the time he wanted really niche food that meant I had to go on missions all over town, and that would take up my whole day with my toddlers in a pram, wandering around. And so what happens is eventually these women make friends. I made friends with other mothers because my children started school, and I realized something actively bad was happening to me. I made a plan and I left. It took me 2 years. And so that brings you to why you don't see women who are older, who are mid-30s, mid-40s and up, making Tradwife content. When you leave, you have no ability to make your own money. You have no financial independence. So do you know what you have to do? You have to go study. You have to get a job. You have to figure out how to untangle all of his wants over your needs, which takes forever. Case in point, I am 34 years old. I have just started an undergrad degree and I have just learned how to drive. And those two things are absolutely incredible. The first thing I did when we broke up, when I had a bit of money to spare, I got tattooed because I was finally allowed to make decisions about my own body. My hair has been every color and length you could possibly imagine since we broke up because I get to make decisions about how I look. The thing is, the longer that you're in a relationship like this, in a way, it was kind of fortunate for me that there were more urgent factors that made me leave sooner, but I am still a good 10, 15 years behind everyone else my age in terms of setting up my finances, in terms of building a career for myself. If you've been in this relationship since you were like 18 and you are now 40, 50 or above, you have no idea how to make a career happen. And because you've got so many gaps in your resume, again, I was fortunate that I work part-time, you're not getting a job. You don't get to have any kind of life. You will be destitute forever. And I also feel like, and I can't relate to this because when we broke up, my children were still in elementary school, but I feel like if you've been in this relationship for decades, your grown-up children are probably also going to be really entitled because they've been raised on the belief that they can treat you like this because that is the norm. And so there are so many of us who have been in these kinds of relationships. I see them all over this app who are in their 30s, 40s and 50s who have left these kinds of relationships, who are like, for the love of God, don't do it. If you really want to cosplay as a 50s housewife, get an education, get your own bank account, put off getting married till you're a little bit older. So yeah, that's why.
So I'm a former Mormon Tradwife. I have 6 kids. I'm 38 years old. I don't have an education. I got married young. I had kids young. And I absolutely gave up on my hopes and dreams to choose the life that I have now. If you would have asked me 5 years ago if I felt like I had choices in my life, I would have hands down told you that I was incredibly happy with the choices that I made and that I made those choices knowing full well what I was choosing. Now that I've been out of the church for 3 years, I will tell you that I was never actually given a choice because I see that the choices that I were given were not given in an honest light. It's not fair to show someone 10 candy bars and say, hey, you can choose this candy bar, which is the right candy bar that you should choose, or you can choose these 9, which are poisonous and deadly, and if they don't kill you, they're going to kill all of your friends and family members. What would you like to choose? That's how choices are given in Mormonism. So when you're in it, you feel like you're making a choice that makes you happy. And to be fair, like I was happy in the sphere of what I knew happiness was, which in Mormonism, sacrifice and suffering is required for happiness. You're taught that everyone else's happiness outside of the Mormon church isn't real happiness. The joy you feel being Mormon, even though it comes with pain and suffering and sacrificing the choices that you actually would have made had you been presented the entire truth, is better and more and real. So are Mormon women truly choosing their lives and being happy with their choices? I think it depends what you consider choice and what you consider happiness. But I will say that for me, leaving Mormonism was the first true choice that I ever made. I didn't know life could be this amazing.
I'm an ex-Tradwife. The first thing I do every morning is check to see if my child support's been paid yet. God damn it! He is such a deadbeat. I'm an ex-Tradwife, so I'm heading into Ace Hardware on a Saturday instead of relaxing or playing golf because I work 7 days a week to support my kid. I'm an ex-Tradwife. I work 3 minimum wage jobs to just pay my rent.
I'm an ex-Tradwife. I'm 15 years away from retirement and my bank account is currently overdrawn by $200.
I'm an ex-Tradwife. After a long morning of working on a furniture flip, I'm now getting ready to go to my second job. I'm an ex-Tradwife. I can't afford to buy myself shoes and my kids shoes, so I've just been kind of like sharing all of my teenager stuff for the past 5 years. I'm an ex-trad wife. I do not ever, under any circumstances, ever go into the grocery store before checking my bank account to make sure that I have money. I'm an ex-trad wife. I live in my uncle's guest house because no money, no credit, no job history. I had a sucky divorce attorney, and my ex is a deadbeat. I'm an ex-trad wife. I'm low on gas, but I'm not quite out, so I'll wait until I get my paycheck on Wednesday. I'm an ex-trad wife. After my misogynistic douchebag of an ex-husband finally left me for the younger version of me, I leveled up to a sexy, supportive partner who folds my laundry and brings home takeout. I love you.
I used to be a trad wife, and now I'm a single mom. It all started back when I was a teen mom. I was 19 years old when I got pregnant. I was not married. When our daughter was like a week old, we just eloped at the courthouse and made it signed, sealed, and delivered. We were married. I was married to a military man, and my job was to be a wife and a mom. I wasn't supposed to have any time or any thoughts about doing anything other than being a wife and a mom. I love my kids very dearly, and I do not regret my decisions to have them. I do regret my decision to pick the partner that I picked to be their dad and to be my ex-husband. I had very low self-worth and self-esteem and thought that I was only good at being a wife and a mom because that's what I was shown growing up. It wasn't until we were teenagers that my mom ever started going to college. When she got married, she didn't have a college degree. She was in the military, and she did her 4 years in the Air Force, and my dad was a career military man, and my mom just married him and became a trad wife. And don't get me wrong, trad wife life comes with perks. I think it's best when you pick the right partner. I've seen a video talking about stitch this and tell me why marriage is hard. Marriage is only hard when you pick the wrong partner. My ex-husband would make fun of my weight. He would make fun of the little gap I have in between my two front teeth right here. Basically anything he could find to make fun of, he would make fun of it. But he would try to play it off as if it was just him being sarcastic and that we should make fun of each other. And don't get me wrong, I know there's couples out there like that, and that is the way they show their love, and I am not passing any judgment on how anybody else lives their life. I just know for me, coming from a house where we never did that, it really sent me into, like, I would say emotional distress. I wanted to laugh all of the things off, but deep down inside, I knew all of the jokes were true, and that he was basically just making fun of me our entire marriage. Of course, at the time, I probably didn't realize all of that until I was out of the marriage. I love my kids very, very, very much, and I do not regret my decision to have them. I love them so much. But picking the wrong partner did a number to me even post-divorce. I was tormented for years post-divorce. My ex was so controlling to the fact that he wanted to try to control my sex life after divorce, after many years of divorce. And he was already married and had a kid with his now wife, who was his wife back then also. Anyway, all of this to say is pick smart when you are picking the father of your children, the mother of your children, and you are picking a partner for life. Do not take that very lightly. That is one of the most important decisions you will make in your entire life. Next to what toppings you want for your Chipotle bowl. Also, it's very important to have the hard conversations in an early relationship and in an early marriage, that if your partner is doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable, that you bring it up and you have the guts to have the hard conversations. That is one thing I definitely messed up in my relationship, is that I let my husband at the time make all the decisions. I basically had no voice. I don't even know if I would have been able to speak up, because after we were divorced, when the kids went to go live with him, because my kids went to go live with him and I paid him child support, I would say I had no say-so on how my kids were raised. I learned that very quickly, that my voice and my opinions on my girls did not matter, and that I should just fall in line with anything he says to do.
That Tradwife to single mom in your 40s pipeline, yes, that's being exposed.
I am one of those 41-year-old single mom to 4 kids that was once a Tradwife for 10 years. And now I'm one of those out here trying to get everybody to listen to me, warning them about what that lifestyle is like. The only correction I would say is not all of us get left. I am a single mom by choice. I realized what was happening. Because when you're in it, you can sense it. It's fun for the first couple of years. Sure, it's cute. Oh yeah, the first few kids. But once real life gets at you and day to day is not Pinterest, and kids do a lot more crying than they do snuggling, and you realize how lonely it is, and then you start to feel like a prop. Like, I feel like every woman knows the levels of feelings that you go through. Not all of us just sit around and wait to get left. I did not. Single mom by choice. I left. I looked at my situation. I saw, okay, I see what we did here. I see, okay, slick move with the 4 kids here, because you think I'm stuck. I get it. One of them's even disabled. Woo, okay. How am I gonna do this? It managed to move me thousands of miles away from family, so I'm alone, 4 kids, one is disabled. Cute, real cute position to be in. I didn't stay. I still was like, fuck this. I don't care what is on the other side of this. I'm jumping, because I'm not going to stay in this. Not all of us get left. And I just want that to be represented in the conversation, because any woman that's in the position, I want her to know. I want other women who are in it, who are feeling those feelings, who know what I'm talking about, to say, oh, if she could do it, maybe I could do it, because absolutely you can. So just wanted to bring that into the conversation. Not all of us get left. Some of us are single mom by choice.
When I got a divorce and my dreams of being a Tradwife / stay-at-home mom with 4 kids baking homemade bread on Monday afternoons, I really felt like my life was over. I come from a long line of Tradwives, homeschooling, and just a very traditional lifestyle. I always expected that to be the home I provided for my children. But when your lemonade spills, you just go out and buy more lemons. While society does try to convince women that there's nothing worse than being a divorced single mom, I'm here to tell you that it is not true. We make the best of it, and we still have an amazing and full life. To be honest, I've realized I don't think I was actually built to be a stay-at-home mom or homeschool my kids. I really enjoy working, and I enjoy my career. When I was a stay-at-home mom for 4 years, I felt like it kind of overwhelmed me and the person I was, almost like I lost my own identity for a little bit, if that makes sense. I feel like when my kids get home from school, I'm able to be more intentional with them. This is just my personal journey, but I am really on a mission to destigmatize single mom life.
So speaking as a former trad wife, I love it when I see comments like this. If you want the best for them, meaning women, other women, encourage them to have a traditional marriage. The further we go from that, the higher the divorce rate. You're setting them up for divorce. Yeah, so I was a trad wife for nearly a decade. My ex-husband worked. He provided a really lavish lifestyle for us. All he had to do was go to work. And when he came home from work, he could just relax and do whatever he pleased. I took care of everything. I cooked, I cleaned, I took care of all of the everything. I even did repairs around the home. Wanted to work out, he worked out. If he wanted to golf, he golfed. I even purchased gifts and took care of stuff for his children from his first marriage. I also had no access to any assets, but that's okay, right? Because women don't need that. Why would women need their own money? Oh, well, women need their own money so they can leave, right? And that's eventually what I did. I left him because traditional marriage, that's the racket. That's actually the scam. I talk about money in relationships for women, so that women can protect themselves, because whether you're in a traditional marriage or not, there's no guarantee that things are going to work out. And whether he is a provider or not, there's no guarantee things are going to work out. women need to protect themselves because divorce harms women far more than men. So yeah, traditional marriage, the trad wife life sure looks good on paper, not so much.
We live in a day and age where traditional homemaking has been forgotten about and even looked down on, where women are fighting to be in the same positions as men, indoctrinated to focus more on their careers and less on the home. When God created men and women more than just biologically different, our roles are meant to complement each other, not to compete. Our husbands are to be the breadwinners as we are to be the bread makers. Somewhere along the line, feminine has been replaced with feminism with the sole purpose of keeping women out of the home, which forces those to rely on the government to teach and raise our children. Marriage is falling apart because the God who created it is being left out of it. And an overall disconnect in the home because the one created to nurture it has been empowered to neglect.
Based on that last creator, I remember the last Tradwife video I uploaded. I was going through the comment section. First of all, there's no way, shape or form I am bashing any Tradwives. I know that there are many benefits of being a Tradwife. I mean, I know that for some of these ladies, it gives us a sense of fulfillment and purpose, being a homemaker in her home. It even gives us a strong family relationship. You spend more quality time with your kids and you don't have to deal with the stress of even juggling multiple roles such as career and managing the household duties as well. So don't get me wrong, but we're just trying to educate along here. I remember reading one of the comments, and one of the comments, the lady shared that she is a Tradwife and she has been so for many years. She and her husband has been married for probably, I think, more than 25 years, and she said that he is now retired but she is still a Tradwife. She said that he gets up and he do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, and she's constantly working, so there is no retirement. Being a Tradwife, you're always on the go. So even though her husband is retired and is basically resting, golfing, whatever it is that he does in for leisure, it's a never-ending duty for her. What are your thoughts on this?
Traditional wives, I talk to young girls, they're like, you still believe in women? And I'm like, no, it's not that. I 100,000% believe in women with every step and every breath I take. But I don't think until you've been helpless, responsible for another life, you understand what it's like to be trapped. And so you can't. People need to find their own journey. If we lived in a perfect society where man goes to work, women take care of the house, it sounds like a utopia, right? And sometimes it works for you and then all of a sudden it doesn't. And then where does it leave women who have dedicated their time to raising families to then, what happened to your career? What happened to your financial independence? You're so vulnerable. You're completely dependent. And then your choice is to stay in a potentially abusive relationship. So many women do. And so many do. I made that money that we lived. I just wasn't looking after it because I was busy having babies. And so I opened myself up to that kind of abuse.
Do you know what I think is really interesting about Tradwife content is that you never see women in their 40s or 50s making it. And there are 40 and 50-year-old Tradwives who have been living their Tradwife lifestyle their entire adult lives, but you don't see them making TikTok content, mostly because they don't really have time to make it, but also because their life is just not aesthetic for TikTok. When you hear Tradwife, you think Alice bands and pretty aprons and chubby babies and perfect white rompers, but you definitely don't think about the toll a decade worth of back-to-back pregnancies has on a human body. You think perfect blonde blowout and not greasy ponytail and random hair loss. You think you're going to be frolicking with your children in a meadow in some floral print gunny sack dress. Girl, you're going to be in line at Target in a denim maxi skirt. And that's fine, just know what you're getting into.
Those of us who have not had access to money or a vehicle, who didn't leave the house alone for 2 years, we know that it's all a trap. Thank you for sharing that, friend. I hope you're in a better place now. And yeah, I think the Tradwife thing as it's being presented on social media and as it's been presented for many years is kind of like building a house. If you build a home, even if you think it's the most wonderful home in the world and you're never going to want to leave it, you still provide exit doors. Even though you never imagine and you don't plan that your house will go up in flames, you still provide a way out if you need it. Nobody goes into marriage or a long-term relationship thinking it's going to fail. Nobody plans on that happening. But so often women go into these relationships and don't give themselves an emergency exit. And they say, well, I'm not planning on getting a divorce. Nobody does. Nobody plans on their house burning down either, but we still provide a way out. It's basic safety and basic common sense, but we romanticize relationships, and we think it'll never happen to us.
I've been watching a lot of TikTok videos about the Tradwife movement, and I think if you go and watch any of my videos, you're gonna know like how I would feel about that. But I have one piece of advice, because I do support women's right to choose their own lifestyle, and I'm happy for you if you choose that lifestyle. I'm trying really hard to support that. But I have one piece of advice, okay? So you don't end up like my clients. If you ask women from that generation, the traditional wife generation, the 50s, 60s, etc., they were not financially incompetent. A lot of them were responsible for paying the household bills. You know why? Because having to pay household bills is a huge pain. Balancing a checkbook is a huge pain. But when I asked my grandmother, those were all things that she did. So this is my one piece of advice. If you're going to choose that for yourself, if you're going to choose to be a traditional wife and be a homemaker, and I support that choice, manage the finances. Manage the finances as part of your role. That way you'll always know what's in the bank account. There should be a joint bank account. His paycheck should be deposited into the joint bank account, and you should be entitled to copies of his paychecks so that you can see that all of his paycheck is going into that joint account and not just a portion of it. And you guys should decide together what you're going to do with that money. And you should have access to that money if you need to buy something, even if it's something for yourself that he doesn't agree with. If you can do those things, you're going to be okay supporting the traditional wife movement. If you look at tax returns, if you get copies of tax returns, if you know how much money you have, you know how much money is being invested, how much money is being saved for retirement, you're going to be okay. You're still going to have problems if there's a divorce. We can talk about those another time. But my one piece of advice for the women that want to do traditional wife lifestyle, operate the checking account. Okay? Hope that helps.
What happens to the trad wives when their children grow up and leave home? Women are 3 times more likely to end up in poverty after a divorce than men. And I think as mesmerising as the content is to watch, it's really important that we look at the financial implications of being a traditional wife. Submitting to your husband and just relying on him for money is actually pretty damaging. This isn't a question of whether staying at home or going out to work, which one's more valuable. It's not about that. The real thing is it's about choice. When we see these influencers with these beautiful, pristine kitchens that, with 2 toddlers I know is not very practical, it's selling an aesthetic that isn't probably very real. But much more important beyond that is things like they're not getting an income, they're not paying into a pension, and they're not building up their own savings. They don't talk about money very often, but the hypocrisy is that they're making money off their platform. So for all the talk of saying let's just submit to our husbands, then getting the affiliate income from an Amazon sale is pretty incongruous. What I like about Nara Smith is that she talks about her husband as how much he does around the house as well, and she talks about cooking because she's enjoying cooking and that's what she wants to focus on. I actually don't think she's the problem. It's when there's no financial autonomy. I don't actually think these young trad wives on social media are realising the long-term financial implications for themselves, because romanticising this setup is not doing anyone any favours. It puts us back so many years in terms of what we've been able to achieve. If you want to actively choose to stay at home with your children and be a housewife, and there's so much work involved with being in the home, it's not about that. It's about protecting yourself and yourself in retirement and having education around empowering yourself with your money. We've also got to think about what we want to teach the next generation. What do you think about it? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments.
If your husband leaves you, you're going to be poor. You'll live in your car and you'll have no money for anything. You're being sold a lie right now all over the internet with these traditional housewife bullshit things. Yes, it's fun to have a man pay for your entire life, but in exchange, you have to wash his dirty socks, make sourdough bread from scratch, and run after his crying children. And you might be saying, well, I really want to do that. I would love a man to do that. I like the traditional gender roles. Do you not realize what happens if you don't have a career and you don't have a bank account
once that man leaves, you are going to be 40 years old with no job, no money, and no skills. And then you have to rely on this man who currently wants to leave you, divorce you, and take everything to feed you, to give you some money, some alimony, some child support. He won't. You'll fight for it until the end of your days in court. What's the solution then? Obviously, start your own little business on the side that makes money, or make him pay you and compensate you for all this unpaid labor you're currently doing.
Remind him how much it would cost if he had to pay for a therapist, mother, maid, nymph, then a virgin, housekeeper, house cleaner, house cook, and butler. Think about it, girls. Don't be dumb.
So all in all, if you are a traditional wife without a steady income, it's going to limit your opportunity to save for retirement. As based on the shares from these creators, sometimes the spousal support or the alimony or child support is just not enough to properly finance you and the kids if you have any. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoy content like these, go ahead and click the up next video on your screen. As per usual, like, comment, and of course subscribe. Until next time guys, walk good.